For this lesson, we're going to be talking about zero and negative exponents. Zero exponents means if you have any any number that's not zero, raised to the zero power, then it's going to be 1. So anything raised to the zero power, 4 to the zero power is 1. 6 to the zero power is 1. X to the zero power is 1. Anything to the zero power is 1. With negative exponents, we're going to take the reciprocal. And if you'll remember, reciprocal has to do with fractions, and it's about flipping. So if we have a negative exponent that's on the top, we're going to move it to the bottom of the fraction. If we have a negative exponent that's on the bottom of the fraction, we're going to move it to the top. So if we look at A, we have 3 to the negative 4th power. So technically this is over 1. So to get this negative to go away, I'm going to have to move it to the bottom. And so this becomes 3 to the 4th power. Now we can't leave nothing on the top, so we put our 1 up there. So we've just taken the reciprocal of this fraction. All right, now we're going back to lesson 2. Also, we're not losing this those previous lessons. We're multiplying like bases. So when you multiply like bases, you add your exponents. So you have negative 4 plus 4, which is 0. And anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, on C, we're dividing like bases. And when you divide like bases, you subtract your exponents. So we have 6 minus 8, which is negative 2. And right now that's on the top. We have an imaginary 1 under here making that a fraction. So to get that to the a positive exponent, we have to move it. Right now it's on the top, so we're going to move it down on the bottom. And we're going to put our 1 on top. Some other examples, if you have something like x to the 3rd power over m times c to the negative 5th power. That negative exponent right there has to be taken care of. And so if it's a negative exponent, you move it. So on A and C, we moved them to the bottom because they were on the top. Right now, this negative 5 is on the bottom. So we're going to move that up to the top. Now we're going to start out with x to the 3rd power. This is positive, so we're going to leave it alone. This m has a positive exponent of 1, so we're going to leave it alone. It's the negative c to the negative 5 that we've got to get rid of. It's on the bottom. We're going to move it up to the top. So no matter where it is, you're going to put it on the other side. Here's a few for you to try. They're a little bit harder than our examples, but try them, see what you can do, and unpause the video and see how you did. Okay, on number 1, you should have gotten 1 over 4 squared, which equals 1 over 16, because this is over 1, and so when you take the reciprocal of that, you have to move that down to the bottom. All right, on number 2, this negative 2 to the negative 5th power is over 1, so that when you take the reciprocal, you actually move that down to make that 5 become positive. Now on this one, you have to, you're multiplying like bases, so you have to add your exponents, which you come up with 6 to the 0 power, which is 1. On number 4, when you divide like bases, you subtract your exponents, and 5 minus 6 is negative 1. And right now, that's over our imaginary 1. And so to get that exponent to be positive, we moved it down to the bottom. We only moved it to the bottom because it was on the top. If it were already on the bottom, then we would move it to the top. I don't want you to think that every negative exponent has to be on the bottom. On this one, we're multiplying like bases. We actually did 1 times 1 and got 1, and then multiplying like bases here on the bottom. And so when you do that, you add your exponents. 7 plus negative 4 is negative 3. Now see how this negative 3 is on the bottom, so we've got to move it up to the top. We actually put this over 1. But remember, when it's over 1, we don't have to put that, so that's why I had left mine off. And on the last one, we'll do the top first. We're multiplying like bases, so we added our exponents, and 5 plus negative 3 is 2. We kept our division bar and the 4 squared. 4 squared divided by 4 squared. There's a couple of ways you can look at this. You can just go straight to anything divided by itself as 1. Or you can look at it as you're dividing like bases, so you subtract your exponent, so you get 4 to the 0 power, which is 1. So if we talk about simplifying expressions, we're not used to being able to just plug a number in for a variable unless they just tell us the number, but we know that anything to the 0 power is 1. So this becomes negative 5 times 1, which is just negative 5. On B, we have some like bases here, but we also have this extra. This 9 doesn't have a like base with it, or we don't have another number that we can divide that out. So we're going to leave 9 alone, and we're going to keep our like base of y. And when you divide like bases, you subtract your exponent, so you end up with negative 3 minus 5, which goes back to our integer rules. Change the minus to a plus, change the sign of next. And same sign, add and keep. So we're going to add these two numbers and keep our negative sign. So that becomes a negative 8. Now remember, the whole part of this lesson is to get rid of these negative exponents. So if you look at this negative exponent is only with the y. So we're going to leave the 9 alone, and we're going to move this y to the 8th power down to make this 8 positive. So try these 3 and see what you can do. Okay, on number 7, the 8 doesn't have a negative exponent, so we leave it up here on the top. And to get this negative 2 to become a positive exponent, we move it, and it's got to go down to the bottom. On number 8, we're multiplying like bases, which means that we have to add our exponents. 0 plus negative 10 is negative 10. We don't want a negative exponent, so right now this is over our imaginary 1, and so we just take the reciprocal of that fraction, and we make it 1 over b to the positive 10th power. Number 9 is a little bit trickier. Our 15 has to stay on the bottom. Whenever you're doing this, you would automatically leave 15 on the bottom. Normally, unless you're just leaving a constant where it is, all of your answers would go on top. So that's why z to the negative 3 ended up on top. But because it is negative, we had to move it down to the bottom to make it positive. And we can't just leave nothing sitting on top of this fraction, so we had to put that 1 there. So hopefully this helped you out with negative exponents and exponents to the 0 power.